Kate MacDowell and Kathrine Morling are two ceramic artists that enhance our attention to form by excluding the use of color. This draws our attention to an extreme focus on detail in their sculptures of common objects and subjects. Although their work is similar in that regard, how they choose to compose their images are quite different. Let's begin by looking at the work of Kate MacDowell. Kate MacDowell began studying ceramics in 2004 at the Carrboro Arts Center in North Carolina, and later at the Oregon College of Arts and Crafts in Portland. She also participated in an artist residency at the Watershed Center for Ceramic Art in Maine. Her pieces are very expressive and are often a response to the toxic stress humans have put on our natural environment. In this image of a rabbit, we see it wearing safety glasses in an attempt to protect itself from man-made threats. In this piece on the left, titled First and Last Breath, we see a rabbit wearing a gas mask while feeding her litter. The mother looks up and to the side as if to question what the humans are doing next, while her babies vigorously nurse away. Other works borrow from myths, such as the piece on the right titled Jackalope. This half-antelope, half-jackrabbit creature is peeled away to expose a human skeletal structure within. The piece here, titled Casualty, also uses that trope in a very effective manner. We can feel more connected to her work by identifying an element of ourselves within her creatures. The fact that they are all white and void of any use of color helps draw our attention to the detail in the skull of the skeleton and the fur of the rabbit. Here, Icarus on the left seems to be falling to the ground after flying too close to the sun. On the other hand, Sparrow seems to be taking off in flight so fast that some feathers are left behind. Some viewers may see these as dissections, but for me, they're alive with movement. Consider how the skull of Icarus is turned in the direction of flight, enhancing our feeling of a speedy descent. A koala bear in its environment inside a brain gives a dreamlike quality to the piece on the left. Having branches suspended in space helps to draw the viewer into the environment. Bugs can elicit creepy emotions, especially when they're seen crawling over a person's face, as shown in the piece on the right. In most cases, MacDowell starts with a solid form, hollows it out, and then adds the final detail last. Each one of her pieces has a powerful backstory. For example, this piece, titled Assisted Living, speaks to the hands-on approach that we've had with animal preservation. In this example, the California condor was brought back from the brink of extinction by a captive breeding program. Eggs were taken from the nest and hand-raised by biologists wearing condor hand puppets. Whether it's an embryo in a nest with baby birds or canaries roosting in a pair of lungs, the viewer can interpret strong meaning for themselves simply by carefully studying MacDowell's work. This piece on the right reminds me of the practice of coal miners taking canaries into the mine to monitor air quality. This was, of course, to the detriment of the birds. MacDowell uses porcelain for its ability to record extreme detail and for its overall strength once the piece has been fired. In a few cases, she has also taken advantage of the translucent quality of porcelain to express space within a piece, as seen here in the depiction of lungs on the left and a heart on the right. The body of her work has reoccurring imagery which helps to tie her pieces together as if they were all part of one large series. These images include flowers, skulls, birds, rabbits, and frogs. Both of the pieces seen here also include bugs, which are characters of hers we've seen in previous works as well. In many cases, knowing the titles of her pieces can add to our interpretation of her work. In this piece, titled Romulus and Remus, we are keyed in to the ancient story of the birth of Rome. When seen from multiple perspectives, attention to detail can be appreciated from all angles of view. For example, look at the expressive qualities in the face of the child on top of the wolf. The title of Quiet as a Mouse adds an additional level of artistic expression in this piece. Here we see a group of mice that appear to be growing human ears on their backs. The technique of grouping forms in a single piece is one that MacDowell has used a number of times. These frogs that are missing limbs have additional arms and legs, or have human arms and legs, are a part of a series she created on the topic of mutations. In one case, she created an installation where frogs filled the floor of an art gallery, like some infestation on a biblical scale. I imagine that she uses molds to produce the animals in these types of groupings. Now let's shift our attention to the work of Kathrine Morling. She is a UK artist who graduated from the Royal College of Art in 2009. In 2010, she was awarded first prize at the World Craft Council in Belgium. Since then, she has received all kinds of international acclaim. Her work seems to convert everyday objects to a two-dimensional pen and ink drawing, and then bring them back to life as three-dimensional forms. Because pen and ink drawings are typically done on paper, there's a delicate quality to her work. This piece, titled Cut, seems like something you could wad up into a ball and throw into a wastepaper basket. That fragile characteristic is in stark contrast to the subject matter of the piece. We think of a chainsaw as being strong and powerful, and yet here it appears to be a fragile paper sculpture. In this depiction of a camera, aperture settings and depth of field scale on the lens, as well as the shutter speed dial and film advance trigger on the body, provide concrete detail to the work. Morling also uses a common drawing convention where hash marks are made to give the illusion of reflection in glass, as seen here on the lens and viewfinder. Many of her pieces incorporate groupings of objects as exemplified in these two wall hangings. The cameras on the left, titled Time, are a realistic depiction of cameras hanging from a hook on the wall. The piece on the right, titled Undercurrent, is more of a whimsical fantasy piece made up of various parts of old telephones. Here's another one of her wall hangings called Equipped. At first, it appears to be common kitchen tools hanging on a rod. Upon closer inspection, we see an odd arrangement of ladles, strainers, knives, scissors, and pitchers. Some of the pitchers almost look like oil cans or watering cans. Since the one on the left has a lid, I suppose it could be considered a teapot. Stitched Up depicts a decorative old-style sewing machine surrounded by needles, scissors, buttons, and measuring tape. We can also find thimbles, safety pins, and spools of thread. I love the traditional decorative work that was so common on these types of vintage machines. This typewriter, accompanied by articles of writing and drawing, seem to tell a story of correspondence. The title, which is Poison Pen, suggests a sinister one. It's hard to believe that everything we see here is clay. The keys could have been straight when constructed and bent during the drying and firing process. If that was the case, the effect only enhances the delicate nature of the work. The chaotic placement of the keys also adds to the sinister tension. Many of Morling's pieces include a container of some kind. On the left, we see a crudely constructed box holding various drawing and painting tools. Part of the interest here is looking to see how many different tools we can identify. On the right is a fully constructed cabinet with 4 drawers. Inside the drawers are butterfly specimens. The handles of each drawer, with their slots for identification cards, add to the scientific theme of this work. In some pieces from her Nature Box series, the containers are wood and only the contents are clay. This seems to draw our attention more closely to the detail of the specimens inside. Here we see bugs, butterflies, bird skulls, and plant forms. There are also a couple of turtles sitting on top of the wall hanging. Here's another wall hanging from that series. It appears to be a wood box with a lid and a drawer, all opened up to reveal its contents. The horizontal format of this piece leads our eye from left to right. We can also appreciate a sense of depth as we peer into the box and into the drawer. I'm impressed by the detail in the beetles and the pine cones. With the introduction of a subject, these two pieces seem to express a story of some kind. It's curious to consider the relationship between these characters and their environment. What are they holding, and why are they wearing masks, I wonder? Some of these repurposed boxes have original documents still glued inside, offering hints of a previous purpose. This piece, titled Out of the House, is a life-size installation that Morling did in 2011. It appears to deal with space. We can enjoy the tools and toys outside of the house as well as explore the various objects and subjects within. Hidden behind the tree on the left is a chainsaw. Around the back side of the house to the right is a wagon. Here's a solo shot of that wagon. It's a delightful element depicting a toy rabbit and miniature horse riding in a wagon. The fact that the wagon is up on wheels enhances our sense of space in and around the piece. Our eyes can move over, under, around, and through the work as we explore Morling's attention to detail. In another installation titled Garden's Edge, Morling depicts 4 children playing in the woods. One of the girls has fallen asleep. With them are a pair of foxes and a woodcutter with a chainsaw in his hand. Unlike Out of the House, which is depicted in an art gallery, Garden's Edge takes up a public space. Here's another view of Garden's Edge. Just out of the frame to the right is a girl at her work table. I have included the solo shot of her here, standing on a stool with a paintbrush in her hand. Comparing these two images exemplifies how these white porcelain sculptures take on the light of their environment. Morling definitely has recurring themes throughout her work. How you relate to any given piece might be influenced by your own personal interests. I have long enjoyed studying and practicing photography, which might be why her cameras are among my favorite pieces of her work. Kate MacDowell and Kathrine Morling are 2 amazing ceramic artists. I have barely scratched the surface in sharing the breadth or depth of their work. If you find them as interesting as I do, I encourage you to do further research on your own. Thank you for watching.